Alright, so it's been about a week since the system released, and here it is right here, the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, I have to be clear, I've only played the Switch 2 in docked mode. I have no experience with it in handheld mode or tabletop mode, and when I do play it in any of those orders, it'll be tabletop mode over handheld. But yeah, getting to the actual system itself, it is exactly what I expected it to be and wanted it to be. It's a more powerful Switch 1, and it's significantly more powerful than the Switch 1 because a lot of the games that I've played, most of them run fine. Only Rune Factory has a little bit of issues, but overall it's perfectly fine. And it is a very nice console to have, and I would say that unless you want Mario Kart World, because that is the biggest game that came out with the system, if you want your backwards compatible games to run better, then I'd say it is worth it. But if you are okay with the performance of the games that you play on Switch 1, then just stick with the Switch 1 and wait for the Switch 2 until there's more games that you're more interested in besides Mario Kart World. And that's really just the honest truth that I can relay on you, because it is $450, and I know that is a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, given the launch lineup is mostly ports and remasters. But like I said, if you have not played any of those games and you really like handheld gaming, then this is definitely worth it for you. But if you're like me that plays in dock mode, and if you haven't played these games and you're okay with them taking a little bit of a hit on the visual department, then I'd say it's worth it. But if you already have these games on other systems, then there's no real reason for you to play on this one and get this system. But yeah, that's really all I can say about the actual system itself. It runs great. I haven't running into any problems besides that HDR problem I had at the very beginning when I mentioned it last week. And what I did actually fixed my issue. So I put my HDMI from my console into my actual TV, and I switched the HDR to only work with games that are actually compatible with HDR. And I've also toggled the 120 frames per second mode in the system options. I turned that off because my display is not capable of 120 frames per second, and I don't know if that also was a factor on my problem with the HDR, but it has dissipated since then. I haven't had any issues with the HDR. I played a ton of Mario Kart, and that is where the HDR was cutting out during gameplay, so that is completely fine now, and it looks fantastic on a 4K display, I have to say. And I am not the biggest tech guy, and to me it is a night and day difference playing Mario Kart World with HDR and without HDR. It's not even close. And I can imagine that the handheld mode on Switch 2 with Mario Kart World probably looks even better than it does on my TV with the HDR, but like I said, I only play in docked mode. You guys already heard my thoughts on all three of the games that I'm going to mention real quick, and of course, like I said, Fast Fusion Arcade Racer, that is a high recommendation for me for you to check out if you have the system already. And of course, I got Rune Factory, Guardians of Azuma, and Mario Kart World. And to me, this was worth getting the system for. I am going to be a lot more picky with the system than I am with the Switch 1, and really get the games that are exclusive for the system, and maybe get certain ports that I don't have already on other systems, even if they are keycards, because you guys already know I bought keycard games, and I'm going to talk about those in another video. But yeah, I am not as bothered as other people about keycards. But yeah, overall, for me, this system was worth it. It is going to get a lot of mileage out of me, not only from Switch 2 software, but as well as Switch 1 software. Now, I still have my Switch 1, and I am going to still play it, because not everything works on Switch 2 like it's supposed to. For one thing that I found out is that the Tasmanian Tiger HD has issues on Switch 2, and it's mostly with the cutscenes, but it still has issues. So that is a game I'm going to play on Switch 1. Now, I do want to test out the Tyler Tasmanian Tiger Bush Rescue Bundle because it does have all 3 games on the cartridge, and then I want to see if every version of Tyler Tasmanian Tiger has issues on Switch too, or is it just the base game by itself that has issues. So I will test that out eventually. At the end of the day, it is difficult to recommend the system, but if you are not sold on the system already, then yeah, you're gonna wait. But if you already sold, you probably already bought one. But yeah, I am enjoying the console, and I can't wait for Donkey Kong Bonanza when that comes out next month. And I can't wait what other exclusive titles that are coming to the system. I do plan on buying Pokemon ZA, and I am not the biggest Pokemon guy. The last mainline Pokemon game I actually played was Yellow when I was a kid. Hated it. So I didn't bother with any other Pokemon games that is part of the mainline franchise. The last actual Pokemon game that I played was Pokemon Stadium on Nintendo 64, and I did like that game. But now that I'm an adult and my taste in gaming has expanded and changed, I do want to give Pokemon another chance. That's why I'm picking up ZA, and I could have picked up Scarlet and Violet because that also famously improved drastically with its performance with Switch 2. But you know, I'd rather just wait for the new title and just jump on that. So I am excited for that, cautiously excited I should say. And overall, I am curious to see where the system goes with this generation, because it could go either way. As of right now, it is kind of a little bit of a rocky start, more with how Nintendo are handling their physical games, because a lot of people are upset. But yeah, I'm glad about the system. And if you bought the system, are you glad you bought it? Anyways guys, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.